welcome back to the channel. If you've been here before, if you are new here, welcome to the channel. My name is Apostate Layla. I make videos where I talk about my journey out of Islam, how I deconstructed, and I am also a former child bride and a survivor of Islamic clergy abuse. And I have also made videos about that. I don't really love to talk about that stuff all the time, but you can go back and watch those videos if you want to get to know who I am, what my story is, etc. Um, it's been a little while since I posted. Life's been really busy. And also, I've been sitting with a story that kind of stayed with me, and I've been trying to figure out how or even if I should share it. And I decided that I will share it, but with care. So I changed some of the details for privacy, but I'm not telling this story to talk about one person's story, but to talk about a bigger problem, a larger pattern, and the situation that I'm going to tell you about, I think highlights it really well. So, a couple of years ago, someone reached out to me. He barely knew me, but he was trying to help a young woman from an Islamic country who had moved to the USA and was in a very bad relationship. Like the kind that sounds extreme when you say it out loud, but for her, she struggled to even recognize it as abuse. She knew she was afraid often, but it was a very normal experience for her. So she was being isolated, controlled, hurt. But when I used the word abuse, she paused. It's like she didn't recognize it. Like it was too big a word. And honestly, I understood her because I used to feel that way too. It took me years to realize that some of the things that were happening to me had been abusive. So, in a moment, I'm going to talk about 5 elements that are actually abuse, that are normalized in Islam, and therefore in some relationships that Muslims experience. But first, let me finish telling you this story. So, for a while, I just listened to her. We would talk when she was safe to talk to me, which was usually at work, and slowly we built some trust. I didn't push her to leave him. I just let her know that she deserved safety, that it was okay to question what she'd been taught to accept. Victims of DV are already having their agency taken from them in so many ways. So the last thing they need is another person telling them what to do. So I used a lot of I statements and said things like, I'm worried about this aspect of what you're telling me, and this is why. And then I would tell her things from my own experience being in a relationship with my ex husband, who was also a man who used Islam to abuse me and justify the abuse. I'd validate her as much as I could, but I never pushed her to do anything. I knew that it had to be her choice to leave or stay. So she had been so infantilized by religion that she couldn't imagine a life where she did things an adult human does on her own. Things like managing her own money or living alone. In her mind, a male was needed for guardianship. Even if the man in question was also abusing her really severely, it was just still better than being a woman alone. So I had reached out to a lady that I knew through the local mosque who had a reputation for helping women in the mosque who were in DV relationships. And at this time, I was still in the closet, so to speak, as an ex Muslim. So they just thought I was a bad Muslim. When I told her the details of what the young lady was experiencing, I was waiting to hear shock, and I'll never forget only getting this kind of sigh and resignation to the situation. The woman from the mosque then told me a few stories that she had recently dealt with and just had this attitude that this sort of thing was so common, unfortunately. And then she implored Allah's help to heal the community. Her recommendation for helping the young woman was to pick her up and bring her to the mosque over the weekend so she could make friends. I can't share the full details of what was going on because those details aren't mine to tell. But what I can say is much, much more was needed than bringing this woman to a mosque. I'll say again that this was a very extreme case of DV, and I was worried multiple times during the course of this that she wasn't going to make it out alive because the violence was escalating so quickly. But to this young lady and the community advocate, this was just another typical marriage. Sad, but nothing too serious. Definitely nothing worth going to the police and making the community look bad, even if that might have been the only way to save this lady's life. The hard part for me is recognizing my former self in all of this because I used to think just like that. But seeing how differently I thought by this point gave me hope. And I wasn't wrong to have hope because eventually something shifted. She started to see it more clearly, and one day she made the choice to get help and she left. And she's okay now. I think about her sometimes, not just what she went through, but how quietly it all could have ended, how casually it was brushed aside by the people around her, even the people who meant well. There are so many women, especially in religious or immigrant communities, who don't realize that what they're living through is abuse because it's been normalized, romanticized, and excused. Sometimes not even recognized as abuse. So here's 5 things that are normalized by Islam that are actually abuse. 1. Not having access to a job or finances without a male guardian's permission or allowance. That falls under the category of financial control. 2. Not being allowed to talk to or visit who you want freely. Isolation is a form of coercive control, and coercive control is abuse. 3. Being told what you can or can't wear. It's not only infantilizing, but also a form of coercive control, which again is abuse. Number 4, being confined to the house, especially when the men of the home are allowed to go and come as they wish, but you are home and isolated. It's neglect and it's coercive control, and both of those are forms of abuse. And number 5, yelling, threats, insults, put downs, anything that makes you walk on eggshells and feel fear, that's emotional abuse. I had a couple more that I was going to add into this because there were so many things that I did not know were abuse when I first started going to therapy. And I would just casually tell my therapist a story. And then my therapist would be like, wait, what? And then I would say it again, just thinking it's a normal story. And then she'd be like, okay, so let's go through this slowly and like gently explain to me that I had just told her something that had like multiple abusive elements in it. And I'd be like, oh, so that's not allowed? That's not allowed? Huh, I had no idea. So if you want me to do another video where I can pretty much tell you every single thing that I've learned that I didn't know was abusive, that I now realize is, let me know. I'll do that. But I wanted to keep this short. So for this time, I just left it at 5 things. But anyway, here's what I wanted to say and what I wish someone had told me. If something feels wrong, that's enough. You don't have to wait until it gets worse. You are allowed to leave before you become a headline. You are allowed to leave because your life matters. Most of us know being hit is wrong, even though Islamically it's allowed in some situations, but that's not how abuse usually starts. But it's nearly always where it ends up. So if you're living with other forms of abuse, it's okay to call it what it is and ask for help. Silence only empowers the abuser, but speaking out can empower you and help you get to a safe place. So I think I'll leave it at this today. I just want you to know that you aren't alone and you are so much more capable than you think.